We are alchemizing unconscious beliefs today on Awaken and Ascend with an amazing guest who is going to help you unravel and heal the unspoken wound of the high achiever. Tracy Poizner is the visionary behind a groundbreaking system operating at the intersection of technology and spirituality. And she's going to take us through the grief of success so that you can enter into the most expansive state of purpose and possibility that can exist for you. I'm Jennifer Regular, the host of Awaken and Ascend, also the founder of the Leadership Ascension Alliance. There's more about that in the video description and on my website, lightingthepath.ca. But thank you all so much for joining us today. And let's meet Tracy. Welcome, Tracy. I'm so excited about this conversation. Your work is really fascinating to me. So grateful that you're here.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And, I always like to ask people what lit your path and what got into it. And your work is really surrounded in or involved and immersed in the deep tech, right? And these are people that are in that kind of field and that are innovators. And there's like this whole space alchemy groundbreaking system that you've created, even. So before we get into a deeper dive on all of that, I'm really curious about you and what lit your path, what led you on this way to help, others that are leaders in this field be able to direct humanity in the right direction, right? And evolve in the best way.
Well, that's it exactly. I'm looking at people, specifically women, actually, in the tech field, working in well, all kinds of technology, really, but thinking specifically about how AI is like changing the whole universe for us as human beings, right? And
Mhm.
really wanting to be able to make an impact with those kind of individuals who are, who are positioned to have an impact in the way this whole thing develops, the whole AI and quantum technology, the way those things develop, that is going to literally, truly change humanity. And that feels like an amazing place for me to be working with people who are still human beings
Mhm.
and who still have, a human uh, energy field that, that holds codes of
Mhm.
emotional distress or dysfunction, distortion, whatever you want to call it, right?
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
the more that we can clear that stuff away and help people to function at the, I'm not even going to say the peak of their capacity because capacity is a limitless thing, right?
Yes, yes.
So to, to expand their potential
Mhm.
into new and greater realms, that feels really exciting and impactful to me. So
Yeah.
I've been a homeopath for a long, long time, like
Mm.
almost 30 years. And well, I moved away from being a very medical model type of thinker, but a very left brain. I've always been a very analytical, left brain heavy kind of person, like really relying on my intellect and my
Mhm.
rational thinking capacities. That was really important to me. That's how I identify myself. I define myself by that part of who I am.
Mhm.
And I would say the last 10 or 15 years of my life have been a slow letting go of that
Mhm.
attachment and allowing myself to embrace, this other whole side of myself. And that is really exactly what I'm doing with these women. I think they're a perfect kind of avatar for where I came from and who I was. And I understand that kind of thinking. I understand perfectionism and high performance and
Mhm.
um, a real identification with the rational intellect part of you. They maybe not so much conventional, but the credibility piece is really important.
Okay.
Being
Mhm.
credible and sort of desperately not wanting to fall over into that other side of being too fluffy or flaky or, whatever it might be. Because I was very judgmental of that. That's where I'm coming from. It was
Mhm.
a very judgmental place of everything that was not um, quantifiable.
Mhm.
So it's been a long period of development for me myself. And now, I want to say, I see you. I see where you are, and I know what is going to massively inform the work that you could be doing if you
Right.
if you can expand and integrate it. Yeah, it's not even, I used to think it was like switching sides, but
Hmm.
it's not. It's an integration. It's weaving them
Right.
together into one massively powerful thing. That's
Yes.
that's where that's where it's at.
Oh, I love this is where it's at. And to be able to align with who you truly are and not to meet some kind of credibility criteria or components, or to be able to perform to certain standards, that are set forth by who, really, right? But to
Well,
really
by yeah,
align with
by
who you are, yeah,
yeah,
reputable
it,
people for sure. And
it's
then
more
to
the it's
create
more
your
the
own
inner.
standards.
It's your
Yeah,
inner
yeah.
one is the biggest. Like it's easier to let go of the
Mm,
external. Sorry, dog is coming in.
hmm.
It's easier to let go of external judgment than it is to find the places inside where you are internally judging yourself, because that is quite
Right.
invisible to you.
Right.
So the external ones you can see, you can confront um, uh, a hesitation to show this side of yourself to person X, Y, or Z, or in a
Hmm.
certain type of context.
Hmm.
But it is very hard to see yourself doing it to you because that happens. It's murky under there, right? It's that's
Hmm.
where we hide those things from ourselves. So that's exactly the place where I want to peel the layers away and help people
Yes.
to confront the self judgment that is absolutely holding them back, even when they think that they have identified all the fears
Hmm.
that they need to deal with to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be able to activate those other potentialities, right? And to be able to embrace all the possibilities of what is available now and to take that quantum leap. And it takes some courage to kind of move around in the dark and find and discover what's been hidden, the gifts and the shadow pieces of ourselves, right? And those wounds, as you called them. And to be able to walk the path with courage and with eyes open through that grief of success. So, can you define that a little bit about what you mean about the grief of success?
Yeah, because it's sort of counterintuitive, you would think that
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
success just makes you feel happy and you're all, proud of yourself or whatever. Um, but success can, um, I mean, it's not just the obvious things like once you have a lot of money, then you don't know who your friends are anymore. I mean, that like there's that kind of cliche version of
Hmm.
success, like the Beverly Hillbillies kind of, you know, hitting it rich or winning the lottery or something. But that's not really what I'm talking about. When you're in a business context, um, getting a promotion, for instance,
Hmm.
often means becoming the boss of people who were previously your peers. That's one way that it can show up, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, it can be leaving other people behind who were struggling alongside you for a long
Hmm.
time, and
Hmm.
you get some kind of breakthrough. Let's say that it's funding or a level of investment that allows you to move forward in a way that, people who have been like your friends let's say in the startup space, if it's not a corporate situation of, like I said, becoming the manager or the boss of people who were all on the same level as you before. And there's a loss of community. There's a loss of companionship in the sense of being able to share your day to day with people,
Mhm.
to be able to
Mhm.
unpack what you're going through when you're now at the next level where, your big problem is that you need to hire 10 new hires, and their problem is still that they're still working out of a garage and looking for somebody to fund their next move. You can't um, you can't necessarily uh, share the same kind of things with the same people. So
Right.
it takes a while to develop a new community, and there's
Mhm.
not the same degree of trust and all of that there. There's also a kind of grief about um, the death of some piece of your identity,
Right.
right? There's some
Yes.
ego piece, let's say, like that some persona that you identify as that is no more because you have moved past it.
Mhm.
Um, and it's like a little bit like, a developmental stage of childhood where you don't get to suck your thumb anymore, you don't get to sleep with a blankie anymore, you don't get to, once you move past certain phases, you don't get to eat baby food anymore, or you don't get to do hopscotch anymore. You go into high school and you can't skip double dutch with your friends at lunchtime anymore, right? We recognize those developmental stages of of humanity, of childhood into adulthood. You become a parent, and then you're more a parent than you are somebody's child. Like that,
Mhm.
the idea of being your mother's child or your father's child takes um, it fades. It fades into the background because you now have this identity as a parent. When you retire, you lose your identity as someone in the, inside of the workforce.
Right.
So being successful to some degree means like letting go of being that spunky startup person or of you know being somebody who's just gonna knock on every door and not stop until something happens. There's something about that scrappiness and of the big question mark over your head that is gone because you've achieved something, you've arrived somewhere,
Mhm.
you became the CEO of a company. um, that could be an incredibly lonely place to be, incredibly lonely. And hence all of the sort of super high-end mastermind groups that pop up, right? Where these men and women pay large sums of money to sit at a table with other people who are at their level because they're not just going to call up the CEO of another company and say, "Hey, you've never met me, but like maybe we could hang out sometime." They need a
Mhm.
platform where they can be introduced to each other and create a, an environment of trust to share those level of things and to feel some community and some companionship in the responsibilities that they have, which are completely different than the challenges that they had before.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I create that environment actually in the Visionary Council as well. And it's just that, right? Just having the safe, sacred space for visionaries and high achievers and change makers to gather and share, the same kind of vision and purpose. Because everything we do is like being a high achiever to create high impact, to serve a higher purpose, right? It's really about this bigger picture and having the support and the environment and the space to grow in that, and to really expand the potential. And so, how do you walk people along that path, that grief path of success? And what kind of wounds or unconscious beliefs are you alchemizing, that are you transforming so that they can evolve into, instead of just mourning what was, evolve into who they are becoming?
Well, I think it's important to identify um, the emotional triggers.
Mhm.
Um, and that's not the same as like talking about a wound per se,
Right.
because
Okay.
I don't know, it's not my way to kind of get into the wound psychology. That feels
Hmm.
kind of like enabling a victim shadow for me. And that's not to
Hmm.
say we pretend that it's not there,
Hmm.
but we're looking for it and we're looking for essentially the lie, the story that you're telling yourself
Yes.
that is um, allowing you to either generate or maintain a kind of emotional feeling that you don't understand that it's not real. It's not true. It's not happening now. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not relevant to the present moment. So we have to find it and understand that voice. Like I was saying before, like hidden underneath lots of layers is
Hmm.
not the external problem, but the barrier that you are generating to hold your own self back in some way. So,
Hmm.
even if it's now I've had this success and I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop because these things never last for me. Or
Ah.
I always manage to sabotage myself. What am I going to do now? Right? There's always some kind of narrative. Or what
Hmm.
did I do to deserve this? This is too much for me. I don't deserve this place. Or I've finally reached the level where I actually am an imposter and everyone's going to find out.
Hmm.
There's, we have to know the specifics of the story that's happening, and it's happening very quietly, but it's those are the stories that are generating the emotional content inside of you,
Hmm.
and they are also dictating exactly how you are going to move in the world because you move in a very different way if you're saying they're all going to find out I'm an imposter
Hmm.
than if you're saying it feels so lonely here. It's a totally different story, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So we get at the most honest expression of what shadow consciousness is speaking. And shadow is all the survival based um, frequencies, let's say, that we have that are distortions of our pure connection to higher consciousness, to your higher self. It's everything to do with survival is a distortion unless you are literally on a raft in the ocean or in a war-torn country or something. We manage to hook on to our survival fears. We hook on everything happening in your frontal cortex becomes a survival issue. So um, you know, a meeting that's not going to go well or losing your job becomes a life or death issue in your mind, which it actually isn't. Um, it could be a really impactful thing that happens in your life, but your body thinks that it's really about survival. And
Hmm.
in some ways, um, it's your ego screaming about survival. Like, uh, so we want to find the place where that specific bit of shadow is telling the story that is actually running how you are showing up in the world. It's running your decisions. It's dictating your actions
Hmm.
or preventing you from acting, which is usually more to the case. And that's where we swoop in with a blend of Bach flowers because that's my whole thing is to
Hmm.
have mapped the Bach. Or do you know? Did we talk about this? Do you know the Bach flowers? Are
Yes,
they
yeah,
a
I'm
thing?
familiar with the
Yeah,
Bach flowers.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I have essentially mapped them or coded them for archetypal frequencies that they can initiate or activate. So that's the space where I would be. Well, first of all, I mean, there is a process of recognizing the lie intellectually.
Hmm.
And it it doesn't always work so well to just take Bach flowers if you are still in a space of being intellectually attached to the
Mm-hmm.
lie.
Right.
Like, um, uh, I really don't have value if I'm not the president. If I'm just the vice president, I have a lower value as a person. I have a lower
Mm-hmm.
value to my
Mm-hmm.
company or to the world as a vice president than as a president. If you're like completely attached to that idea, sometimes the Bach flowers can help to unhook, but really we need to get to the place where you can say, okay, I know it's not true, but it still feels true to me on some level. Then we can work. Um, and a good blend of these vibrational essences really just helps to clear the distortion so that you go, I I can't believe I thought that. Did I really think that? Because why would I have thought that? It just it 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 undistorts and then it's normal and you can see the truth. And once you've seen a particular truth, you don't go back to believing the lie again. Because it's like when you've seen the magician's trick, you know how it's done. You can't be
Mm-hmm.
fooled by that particular trick. There are other
Right.
tricks
Hmm.
that could fool you, but you can't be fooled by that one again.
Yeah, because it was all a distortion, right? It
It was
wasn't
a, it was
reality.
just
So
a
you're clearing
distortion.
that. Yeah. Yeah. And raising the vibration and the frequency as well through these
Well, that's
essences. Hmm.
that's basically what happens. Distortion is always a lower, it's a lower frequency. It just is. I mean,
Hmm.
there we could talk about lots of people who have explored that in their writings.
Hmm.
The one that jumps to mind is Power versus Force of David Hawkins. He really
Okay.
did many, many years of clinical, practical research about calibrating frequencies and the lower ones. That's why we talk about raising your frequency. I think it's also just intuitively understood that lower, slower, more dense
Hmm.
vibrations are more heavy and maybe more human. And as we move up to a more spiritual or divine orientation of
Hmm.
ourselves, it is going to be a lighter and faster vibration. We can't we
Absolutely.
can't see or experience those things with our human nervous system because I
Hmm.
mean we don't see x-rays either, but they're there. We know what to use them for. They have a purpose. We know how to manipulate them, but they're not part of our observed reality, unaided with our just our senses.
Yeah, absolutely. And once these distortions are clear, what do you notice in your clients? What do they report?
That's an interesting question because um, sometimes they can report an old thing being gone, like
Hmm.
like a fear or an aversion that they can recognize that they don't have it anymore. Um, yeah, I mean, I've had a client call me up and say, like, I don't know what this stuff is, but I never want to go back to feeling like how I was feeling before. I don't like, am I going to have to take this for the rest of my life? Because I never want to feel that way again. He could tell that he feels so different now,
Yeah.
than before. Sometimes it's just a very organic and natural feeling of kind of having a good day,
Hmm.
but it's your new normal. Like that feeling of clarity or lightness or um, self-confidence that you
Hmm.
feel when you're just having a good day and
Hmm.
things are going well, right?
Hmm.
It's like that's how it feels. It just brings you're still you. You don't feel like a different person. It's just you on a good day, and that's your new base level now. And
Yes.
then we can move forward from there.
Yeah.
So they really do seem to work. remarkably quickly, and no thanks to me. I mean, that's Dr. Bach who invented
Right.
those flowers. But this seems to be an extremely precise way of selecting. I won't say prescribing because we're not supposed to say that we do that. But I mean, if
Mhm.
it could be a word in the common language, I'm choosing a blend of
Mhm.
Bach flowers for someone. And this seems to be a very, very precise way of choosing the ones that are going to make an impact very quickly.
Right. And give someone the ability to move forward and not just like move forward in the way they have been and in the way that is more expressive of their full potential and activating something different within them that would elevate their life in more meaningful ways and even in their work in more meaningful ways, right?
Well, then that's the idea. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I obviously again, we tend as human beings, we're all obsessed with compartmentalizing things, but
Right.
your work
Yeah.
is not actually separate from your life. It just isn't.
Exactly.
We
That's what
talk
I
about
always say
work-life
too.
balance
I
as if
call it
they're,
about your life work. Yeah.
two different things or something.
Yeah.
Your
Mm-hmm.
relationships are not different um, from, what happens in your work life and your home life and your relational life and your spiritual life. They are all interwoven in,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me,
Bless you.
they are all inextricably interwoven together.
Yes,
They
yes.
are not different compartments.
Right.
We imagine them to be different compartments of something,
It's true.
and they just aren't. It's a way of speaking. So the the thing that's most important to me, and I think also to my clients, is
Mm-hmm.
that the insight and the ideas and the genius that we all have access to should come forth and become something in the real world. It should
Yes.
it should come through you and manifest into something
Mm-hmm.
in reality. That's the final goal. That's
Mm-hmm.
the play, is to bring something from your higher self
Mm-hmm.
through into reality. And so for people who are in their work life, doing things with sort of cutting edge technology and new innovation, yes, the goal is to create something, to, um, uh, well, I was going to say leave some legacy, but it's not for self-aggrandizement. It's that
Mm-hmm.
you are doing something that is going to, create a shift for the environment, for other people, for individuals, for yourself in some way, for your family, whatever it might be, and that the ripples of that are going to outlive you by definition because something is going to have changed and it will then kind of take on a life of its own.
Yes.
So we absolutely want the innovation, the invention, the creation to be the thing that um, is, let's say, bigger than you. It's certainly bigger than your ego or your personality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so everything is focused on um, clearing everything out of the way that would impede that from happening.
Yeah.
And when you're clear, surprisingly, other people are drawn towards you. And that's the real meaning of leadership, is
Mm-hmm.
that kind of magnetism or
Right.
charisma
Yes.
that causes other people to turn their head and say, I want some of that.
Yeah.
Or I can, like, that is true, whatever that person is saying, and I'm walking in that direction because um, it's very hard to find people speaking truth. We live in a fake it till you make it kind of world where
Mm-hmm.
everybody's trying. And the people who can lean back into their knowing of something become very attractive.
Yes. Yes. And so, Tracy, if someone wants to come see you now and clear the interference, clear the distortions, and really walk in their truth, how can they reach you? Where would they look up your work?
Well, my website is tracypoizner.com. There's
Easy.
certainly a book a
Okay.
call button right on it.
Okay.
That would be the fastest. To just, jump over to my website and have a look and click that button and book a call to get acquainted. I would love to speak with anybody. I'm also about to, I was just telling you on May the 15th, I know 2025, because someone could be listening to this way down the road.
Yeah.
But I'll be in New York City doing a master class called Absolute Intelligence,
Oh.
which is soul-led leadership for elite women in tech.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so that's going to be a very special event. I'm really, really excited about that.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, we'll have the information for that down below, and of course, the link to your website. And is there anything else that you want people to know? This is groundbreaking work, a whole new system, a whole new way of thinking, a whole new lens to be seen through. And you mentioned some of the more important things that you definitely want to get through. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to that?
Well, just that I would just want to emphasize that spirituality and technology and commerce are are all one thing. And
Mm,
um, we've been living as if they need to be separate and that it's very hard to integrate them.
mm,
But I think in this age of, everybody's all obsessed with artificial intelligence, AI, and so they should be because it's, seemingly every day it's new and, new again iteration of itself. But I hope that people will put some of their attention on absolute intelligence, which is what the human, designers and managers and stewards and shepherds of this technology need to have in order to um, make it be of a better planet and an elevated humanity.
mm,
Um,
mhm.
and this is about being whole, it's about being congruent while you're being effective and impactful and creative. So um, it's what I love to do, and I would love to talk to anybody about this.
Yes, awesome. All right. Well, that link for Tracy's website is down below. So if this is fascinating you, intriguing you, and you want to know more and you want to connect with Tracy, then definitely look into the link below. And Tracy, it's been so amazing having you here and to approach this topic in such a delightful way. And you're just brilliant and doing amazing work with all of this. And I can't wait to see, what comes of it all. So thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you. Thank you for having me. This was a pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you to each and every one of you that have been tuning in to Awaken and Ascend. We're here every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific. So we'll see you again next time. Bye for now.